Isaiah 11:6 about, it now says wolf when it used
Right.
to say, lion. And
So I have a question for you about that before we forget on that one. On the Lion and the Lamb, Isaiah 11:6. Had you read it in the King James?
Mm.
Y- You hadn't, and so when he's so you're
I knew of it, and
oh,
everyone uses it, like in songs and sermons. I'd heard the phrase, the lion shall lay down with the lamb. It's like I knew the concept of Jesus as the lion of the tribe of Judah, but he's also the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. I knew all of that from just my upbringing,
right.
but like actually going and reading Isaiah 11:6, no. I trusted other people over checking the proof myself.
Exactly, because, even me as, I came from a very similar place where I actually got saved on the King James Bible, but as soon as I went to church, I was given an NIV, like day one. They're like, "Why are you reading that antiquated, Bible? Here's a better version, or easier to understand and all of that." And so I thought all the translations were just pretty much equal, and I'd also dabble in the King James at that time. I really got into the New King James at that point because the NIV, NLT all felt too watered down for me. But when you think about a verse like Isaiah 11:6, going not into, the New Testament that maybe some Christians have read, but kind of an obscure verse to some degree in Isaiah 11:6, even though it's very popular and we get all of these stories told around it through art and media and songs and all the things that, like you yourself said, you hear about. But it's not a verse that I think a lot of Christians could say, other than, I mean, now, people are studious, we're reading the King James Bible, all the time and we've read it through and through. But at that phases of my Christian life, which I never got into it, into the Mandela effect. But at that point, until the Mandela effect came up as a topic, as a controversy within Christian, at least online Christian, uh, fellowships or discussions, I'd never actually pulled out Isaiah 11:6 from the King James Bible specifically and said, "Oh, wow, it says wolf and lamb here," or it says lion and lamb. I'd read through Isaiah even, but you kind of I'm reading it for the whole book. I'm not reading it and
Right.
stopping at Isaiah 11:6. And so I don't think most people that are in the Mandela effect, who are trapped by it right now, have actually read or had read Isaiah 11:6 until this controversy
The-
came up. So their memory
And they're going back and it's like, wolf? Satan is the wolf. What, and that's the whole thing is like, because, but, Satan's also described, which verse is it, Afshin, that talks about Satan as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour.
right. There's a mishmash of different verses,
Mhm.
like Satan roaring around, and I think it's in Peter. And then you've got, the lion and the lamb in terms of Jesus being the lion and the lamb, and you get this conflation of, like, from Revelation, the lion or the lamb who was slain. And so you get all of this conflation and mixing between different aspects and parts of the Bible. We have this image of the lion and the lamb in our heads as Jesus.
Right.
And so when it's pointed out to you that, wait a minute, a verse you've never read in the King James Bible in Isaiah 11:6 actually says wolf and lamb, not lion and lamb, you think, man, something is happening. And you get that's sort of one of the things that pull people into that deception.
Well, it's the cognitive dissonance, and the lion and the lamb, because Jesus is referenced as both. But in Isaiah, and this is what I would try to get through to people when I would do videos, back years ago on this is to read through the entirety of Isaiah 11. Okay, this is talking about the millennial reign when Jesus is physically on the earth and he is ruling and reigning from David's throne, and how there's going to be no more war and total world peace. And of course, all these animals are listed. And these are animals that are known to be predator or predatory animals. Okay, well, they're not gonna be that way in the thousand-year reign, and so I try to just show the context, this is not allegorical language here. This is telling us real animals like wolves and lions and leopards and bears and all of these animals that are in those few verses there, that they're not going to eat meat. They're going to live peaceably with the lesser or weaker animals, like we think of like sheep and goats and stuff like that, so there's nothing allegorical going on there, but it's like people just like steamroll right over that, and they're just like, nope, that's it was never wolf, and it's just like, what do you do? It's just
Right.
like,
Well, wolf is the natural predator of the lamb,
mhm,
so it actually makes sense in context also.
exactly.